Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast, where the legal industry gets real. I'm your host, Eda Rosa, legal consultant, speaker, and founder of Eda Rosa LLC and the Limitless Paralegal Academy. This isn't your stuffy legal studies school lecture. We're talking mindset, money, modern workflows, and how to build a career and a life you don't need a vacation from. Let's cut the fluff, raise the bar, and change the game one conversation at a time. If you like what you hear, feel free to share and send us your feedback. Now let's talk paralegal. Welcome back to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast, season 6, baby. And we're kicking off with one thing that might just save the legal workspace: trust. Let's be real, hiring is broken. Job seekers don't trust law firms don't trust job seekers, and recruiters are often caught in the crossfire. But today's guest, she's here to change that. Lauren Fernandez is the founder of Palm Coast Staffing, and she's not your average recruiter. She's the matchmaker the legal world didn't know it needed, fighting for transparency, better communication, and finding roles that actually fit both sides. In this episode, we dive into the messy world of legal hiring and explore how to rebuild what's been broken, one honest conversation at a time. So whether you're hiring, job hunting, or just tired of the same old hiring headaches, this one's going to hit home. Listen in for more. Hey guys, welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Today I have a wonderful guest for you. We're going to be talking about something that actually my guests have been asking for. So understanding and pivoting, that's what we do on the podcast in general. And recruitment is actually, and onboarding is very pivotal to those conversations. So we have an amazing recruiter. Her name is Lauren Fernandez, and she's going to share some tidbits and sprinkle in, like I just told her before the recording, a banana sundae. We're just going to make it and create it and give it to you guys in a delicious, deliverable episode. So without further ado, Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about you and how you really got into staffing?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on here. It's exciting. So how I got into staffing, I don't know if you've ever worked with any other recruiters before or interviewed any other recruiters, but it's kind of always this saying that we always just fall into it. Nobody ever like grows up wanting to be a recruiter. Um, but growing up, I was always interested in, how do people get jobs? When I discovered that like office buildings were not just one company, there were like multiple companies in there. I was like, how did this come about? So very strange child. But back in 2014, my husband and I, we started our own sales and marketing company. And we worked with large companies like DirecTV, AT&T, things like that. And we handled all of their sales. So I was responsible for all of the recruiting. We grew that company to be over 100 employees in 3 different states. But then about the time that, like streaming services, cable got less cool, we ended up selling it. And then I went into a more traditional recruiting route with some large agency recruiters. And then I actually worked for an interior design company in Boca as their director of operations, did all the recruiting there, and then went back into the agency side. And my last company is when I started their legal department for recruiting, just kind of how I got into the whole legal space. My husband, when we sold the company, he went and started doing marketing for legal firms. So after a couple years, we're like, you know what? We know how to run a business. We have the recruiting, we have the marketing. Let's combine forces. Started Palm Coast Staffing. So what we do is we specialize in recruiting for the legal industry on a national level. We handle all roles under the roof of a law firm. So we do partners, we do associates, we do paralegals, intake, payroll, HR, all the things. And
I love that.
that's how we
I
came
love
about.
that. I mean, I love that story, and especially when I love the family, oriented small business. It's really hard to find those businesses anymore because they usually get bought out to bigger companies and then it
Yeah.
loses that element, right? So, not to go on a tangent, but anybody that follows Cody Sanchez, I love her because her
Mm-hmm.
whole tagline is, bring Main Street back And I actually got to see her live and in color. So it was really cool to, see that person that you follow so much. And so I love her too. So I will share those resources for you guys too if you're interested in knowing more about that, because I'm definitely more of the I'm everybody that follows me on Instagram specifically, they'll know that I'm super, super supportive of family owned businesses. I will go to any business around me that is family owned, whether we're traveling, whether it's domestic. And so for
Hmm.
me, it's really important to support small businesses, not only because I am a small business, but specifically for family owned because they're so rare now.
They
And
are,
so,
and they're the backbone of America. They always have been. It's kind of the American dream.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing working with small businesses versus large, they both have their perks and they're good at different things. And so, and when we're working with our clients, that's one of the things that we tell them is like, what are you looking for? Are you looking to fill a bunch of roles really, really fast? And it doesn't really matter how niched it is, then this company over here is going to be a better fit. If you're looking to fill a very specific role that you want very customized, that you want us to essentially be an external part of your firm and like speak as your firm, then maybe you go with something smaller. So it's just kind of figuring out, what does success look like to you? What does that relationship look like? And pairing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. And actually, that goes right into our first topic of the day, which is what are employees and employers looking for, right? That's the magical question. And I know it's going to be
Hmm.
the typical legal answer where it says it depends, but
I know
essentially,
that's
we're
my
all,
phrase. Throw it back at everybody.
but right? But essentially, we are all looking, excuse me, for the same thing. We're looking for dream builders, right? We're looking for people
Hmm.
that will build upon the foundation that we've done. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, kind of to piggyback off what you're saying, I mean, anybody can match phrases on a resume to a
Mhm.
job description. Um, AI is getting really good at that. Um, but what you really need to be able to understand and where a good recruiter relationship comes into place, whether you're the candidate looking for a role or whether you're the firm or the company that's looking to hire, is really understanding those almost unwritten aspects of your business, the long-term vision or the goal of what this role entails. Because I've been on both sides, right? I've been the company that's trying to hire that person, and I've been the person trying to, or have the person that's trying to go into that role. So I work with both sides. And the one thing that I think that gets so distorted or forgotten, especially now in volume and social media and all of that, is kind of the human element of it. And, one person that you hire can completely change the trajectory for better or worse of your company and your team. And vice versa, that person is a whole person. They've got a family, they've got kids, they've got personal life goals, and their job affects every aspect of their life. So you can't separate them. Like
Yeah.
you can't. As much as we try, it's not possible.
No,
It's a
I say
whole.
that to the people that are seeking jobs because I primarily, I
Hmm.
mean, I do work obviously and I consult for law firms and we do assist them in onboarding. But I do a lot of coaching as well, which I find more fulfilling than onboarding for law firms because half of the
Hmm.
time they don't even know what they need. So they have
Mm-mm.
to purchase the full package for me to even figure that out, right? So
Well,
like we have to do all that research for them, you
yeah.
know?
Well, they go to school to be whatever your profession is. You go to school to be really good at that profession. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, what happens is that you start off entry level. You're really good. You work your way up through the ranks, which
Yeah.
makes you a really good player. But being a
Right.
coach and being a player is not the same thing. And so you get
No.
to that management level, but nobody taught you how to hire. Nobody taught you how to interview. So you think that you Google Forbes best 10 interview questions, you say them, you're like, all right. And then, but there's a disconnect. So,
Of course.
um, yeah, I think it's really just figuring out what is your company, what are their goals, what are the priorities, what is important to you, your team, what is this role going to do, how does it fit in. And then on the flip side, as the candidate, if you're looking for a job, what I tell people all the time is success looks different at different times. for different
Yeah.
people. So are you at the beginning of your career? Maybe you don't have, a lot of family responsibilities. You're single. You can put in all the hours and work the weekends and, do the billables and things. So maybe you can take a role at a larger firm where it does have higher billables, has higher money, and, you're putting in the reps. Whereas, later on in life, you've got a bunch of kids that are all under 10. You want to go to their plays. You just maybe you step back a little bit and you do an in-house role that has no billables, but you have more free time. So when you're looking to make that change, what are the priorities to you? It's not just about money. I mean, eggs are $12, so it is kind of about money, especially here in South Florida. But what are you trying to achieve out of making this career move?
I love
And
that.
then and then do those match. And if they don't match, it doesn't
Mm,
mean that it's a bad opportunity or a bad candidate. It's just not a right fit. And so you
yeah.
find something else.
And but I think you hit it, and I'm writing notes, by the way, but I think you hit it on the nail when you said success is different at every stage. And what success may look like for you now, and I always hone in on this, especially if you follow me
Hmm.
on LinkedIn. Um, it depends. You're not the same person you are 5 years ago. Like, look at all the things that you wanted that you have. That right there was your success. Now,
Hmm.
here comes the next step. But another thing I want everyone to really hone in on in this moment is pause and celebrate that, though, because sometimes we're always looking for the thing, the next thing. We're looking for either the next, pay income bracket. We're looking for the hierarchy. We're looking for the status in
Hmm.
society. We're looking for, the bigger house or the nicer car or the bigger vacations versus staycations. And all that is great and it's warranted and you deserve it. You've worked hard for it. Go for it. Whatever your little heart desires, move forward with it, but celebrate the wins in between, because
Oh
what's going to
yeah,
happen is those desires are going to fade away. And sometimes you're chasing a feeling, you're not chasing a destination. So really be very
absolutely.
aware, right? So recruiting, coaching, onboarding, all this has a lot to do with mindset and where your mind is set at that moment in time, right? So I always talk about
Absolutely.
personality, the environment. You just talked about that, right? That
Hmm.
person can create your whole culture, right? Can make it or break it depending on how you look at it and, what that hire is. So looking at that person in its entirety is really what you're looking for. Because like you said, they can have the same set of skills, the same education, the same experience. What's going to set you apart is really your personality. That's the one
Hmm.
thing that you're going to sell at the interview, right? So actually, let's talk about that because that's our next topic. It's to create better conversations during the interview process for both the employer and the employee, right? It's really
Hmm.
important to already come in having your expectations and that list ready. Having to know this is how much money I really need in order to survive, period,
Yes.
right? In order to get my bills paid and still have a little extra left at the end of the month. Um, this is the environment I see myself in, whether it's virtual or in person or a hybrid or
Hmm.
somewhere in between. Am I willing to travel? Yes or no? And if yes, for how, 20% of the time, 30, 100%, all these questions you should already have answered in your head or in a list and have that expectation coming to the interview. And the employer should already have those answers for them as well.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
so let's
Yeah.
talk about that. What else can we do in order to create real conversation, right? Because an interview is it should be a conversation, should not be a Q and A
Hmm.
session. First of all, let's just
Yeah, no,
put it that way.
absolutely. I agree. So some of the clients that I work with and the ones that have had the best retention over the years have that's what they've mastered. They have mastered the art of interviewing, and what they do is they have this it's a kind of a combination of just get to know you conversation, who are you? Why are you sitting in this chair across from me or, on Zoom? What is it that you're looking to achieve, but in your next career step? So they have that kind of conversation because they're coming at it as a good leader, what you're doing is you're helping your people get to the next level in their career. That's what a leader is supposed to do. And
Correct.
so when they're having those conversations with the candidate, that's their goal. It's not an interrogation of, have you sat first chair? How many times? Can you run a motion? That, like those are important skills to have, and you do need to go over, what is your background, what is your practice areas, and what are the transferable skills, all of those things. But they're able to kind of have a conversation where those questions get asked and answered in the conversation.
Right.
Um,
Organically.
or
Like
very
it just comes
organically. That's
out.
the word I was looking for. Yes. And then on the flip side, then they will open up the floor to the candidate and say, okay, so what questions did I not answer that you have?
Yeah.
And then they get to, they spend more time letting the candidate talk than they actually do talking. That way they both get a really good understanding of, is this a good fit long term? One of the things that I always tell all my candidates when I'm preparing them for interviews is ask comparative questions. Because what that'll do is, one, it gives you a little chance to brag about, your skills and what you know. But what it'll also do is it'll prompt the interviewer to maybe think of something that they didn't think of. So, at X, Y, and Z, firm, we always handled this situation this way. This was always our approach. What is your firm's approach? How do you guys perceive this? How would you move forward with that? And then that way you can, because cases are handled differently. People have different approaches, and that is very important. If those don't align, that's going to be a problem. So asking those kinds of questions shows that you actually know what you're doing, but it also prompts the interviewer to talk about the firm and to see if the firm actually knows what they're doing, because it's not always the case.
No, yeah, absolutely. I always say read the job description, get familiar with it. If they have their either required or preferred, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, whether it's the language, whether it's a skill in a certain software, right? Like for example, like a Clio or in my case or Smokeball, which are like the top
Mm-hmm.
three most popular, and you honestly don't have experience in that software, get a demo, get familiar with it, start reaching out to
Mm-hmm.
the a software company. They have training videos all the time
Yeah.
straight on their website. At least you can get a general idea of what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and not get lost in the conversation. Whether or not you have the experience, that's different, but you have the knowledge. There's a difference. I know about it. I've seen it. I've been trained
Mm-hmm.
on it. I know how to manage it. Essentially, those softwares are all the same
They
anyway.
got all the
And they're
same.
like, but that's not really the point. The real question is, how do you use the software? Do you use it
Mm-hmm.
just for your files, for your documents? Do you use it for notes and updating the system? Do you use it with the email integration, text messaging? They all have the same thing. So the more you get familiar with the software, the easier it is for you to be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, I know the software has the same thing that the other software I used to do. And like you were saying about the comparative, right? Well, over here, we used it full blown. Like it was our heartbeat. Like if it was down, we were down. Like nobody was
Yeah.
working, right? Or in opposite, we only used it to have whole documents. It didn't even have the client portal information or whatever the case may be. And having those questions as well shows,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I may not know the system, from ins and out, but I do know this other system and it's super similar,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just need to
Exactly.
know how
Exactly.
your law firm is using, what capacity you're using it.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes, and I know there's a statistic, and right now, I don't know what the statistic is, like, percentage wise, because it does fluctuate
Mm-hmm.
literally like every 3 months, I think. But they show that women are highly more likely not to apply for the position if they don't check all the boxes.
Yes. I
So tell me
also
about that.
Funny enough, I was also just listening to another legal podcast that was talking about something similar, and how it seems that in law firms, a lot of times women will not go and ask for the next step. They wait to be assigned the next step, whereas men just go and ask.
Mhm.
Um, and then that starts a whole nother conversation. But I think
That could be a whole episode
that's
on
a
its own.
whole that's the next one. Um, but yeah, and so I think that a lot of times, and it's not just gender specific, but I think a lot of times people will think that if they're applying for the job, yeah, they do. They have to have all of these things, and they end up, disqualifying themselves before before they didn't let the company say no. Now,
Yeah.
granted, there are some requirements. If you don't have a GED and you're not licensed or barred, maybe you can't be an attorney. There's
Yeah,
some
just yeah,
things.
there
There's some
there is
things.
some things, yeah.
But generally speaking, your job when you apply is to market yourself and say, hey, you know what? No, I don't have X, Y, and Z, but I do have experience from this over here that is a really great transferable skill, and I will be able to bring this to the table. And it's kind of making it make sense.
Hey, legal pros, are you ready to stop playing small? The Limitless Paralegal Academy is officially open, offering powerhouse courses, real world tools, and expert led training to help you build the career and life you actually want. We're not stopping there. The Limitless Paralegal Tour is hitting the road. We're bringing the mindset shifts, career strategies, and community straight to your city with epic speakers, actionable sessions, and zero boring PowerPoints. This isn't your average CLE. This is your legal career reimagined. Join the Academy, meet us on tour, become the legal pro everyone remembers. Visit limitlessparalegalacademy.com to enroll and grab your ticket now. Be bold, be brilliant, but most importantly, be limitless. Right. And not only that, sometimes they need something fresh, right? Sometimes they don't
You
even know
do.
what they need, right? So bringing a different perspective to the mix is getting them out of that traditional mindset of
Hmm.
doing things the same way, which leads us to our another thing is our trends, right? Like the most popular trends you mentioned in our before the recording, you mentioned about the COVID, right? After COVID and how it dismantled the system and now we're rebuilding it in certain ways. So let's talk about those trends that you're seeing and kind of how COVID plays a part in that, or
Yeah.
played a part, or still does. I mean, we're
I
still,
mean, first off, it's been half a decade since COVID, which is insane.
insane. Yeah.
Absolutely insane. It's been 5 years. Yeah, so I think for all the terrible negative things that came about because of COVID, one of the very positive things is it kind of pushed us all into be able to into this virtual world where we're now all very comfortable being in front of the camera, or should be very comfortable being in front of the camera, doing the virtual interviews. It's opened up a lot of opportunities for remote work. So if you're in a really small town in Oklahoma, maybe you can get a job in New York. And so, you have that experience, and somebody, in New York can have that talent pool of somebody that's, in Oklahoma. So you have a lot of opportunity. And then, there's also people that have different health issues or things going on that maybe they can't get to the office all the time, and they can do the remote, which is so there's a lot of positive things that have come from that. And then remote is such
and
it's
then,
and then
and then.
we're also learning about how to work remotely and how to onboard people remotely. And there is a very big disconnect, and especially now that it's been 5 years. It was really easy when the teams were established to unplug and go home because you had the relationships, you had the training. But now we're trying to hire, onboard, and continue to build
Yep.
remotely, and it just that learning through osmosis. I call it the stupid questions. People aren't asking them, right? Like you're not gonna
Yeah,
be
that's
like
right. You're right.
walk down the
No,
hall,
accurate.
knock on the door, and be like, "Hey, I know this is a stupid question, but how do I do
Mm-hmm.
da 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 da?" You're not gonna like schedule a home Zoom call for that. You're just gonna not ask it. And
Mm.
so, um, remote's been really, really good. There's been some challenges with it. What I am seeing now 5 years in is a lot of people don't want remote anymore. They want, I know it's crazy. Um, they're
Okay.
wanting, I know. Well, firms are going back. in office, obviously. People want hybrid. They want the understanding that, hey, I go to work, I do my job, but I've got kids. I've got dentist appointments. I've got X, Y, and Z. And I don't want to take PTO for that because I can just bring my laptop and work, wherever. And so it's having that trust and that understanding that, I have a life, but I will get my work done.
Mm,
It's kind of what we've been seeing a lot of is like, treat me like a responsible adult. I will do my job, but it may be at 10 o'clock at night. It may be at the doctor's office. It may be, but it will get done.
mm.
And so it's kind of that balancing act that I've been seeing a lot of is I
So
want to
they're
go in the
asking
office.
more for flexibility, is what I'm hearing, like that having that
Hmm.
flexibility of having that, okay, I have an office, I can log in, but if I cannot
Yeah.
make it to the office, I still have my laptop kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that
Right.
like that understanding of like, hey, I've got things going on. I'll do my job. I'll get it done, but I don't want to take PTO just because my washing machine broke and I have to wait for 4 hours for the guy to get here and I could be working. That
Right.
that kind of thing is what we see a lot of. But
Do you
people
see a
miss
lot
that
of
human
pushback
interaction.
from the employers?
It's figuring it out. Um,
Okay.
because it's not black and white, cut and dry. Some people are anybody that's managed a team knows this. Some people are really
Yes.
good at self-management and some people not so much.
Right.
And the people who are not getting their work done in the office are not going to be getting their work done at home either. Um, and so it's kind of trying to figure out that balance of, how do we keep everything fair and equal, but also, have that structure that needs to be there. Um,
Right. Well, because the machine still needs to run, right? So if it's
yeah,
missing a wheel, it can't run. So it's really having,
it's kind of that.
yeah, I mean, it's
And
hard.
it's
And
not
then like
easy.
with the law firms when they are scaling as well, which is kind of where we come in, right? When they're at that
Hmm.
pivot point where they're going up and they're growing. And it's a beautiful moment because I see the happiness, but I also see the fear in them because they are understanding that this I guess dream or vision or mission or whatever they're calling it is much bigger than them,
Hmm.
and it's finding the, oh my goodness, I have to let it go and just let it grow, right? Kind of moment. And it's scary, right? It's like a
Oh yeah.
nervous, happy. So we have to look at it from both sides. We understand the human needs of the workers, right? Of the staff.
Hmm.
But we also have to understand that the owner, right? The one that actually started this from nothing, that was day in and day
All
out
their
working
blood, sweat, and tears.
24/7.
Hmm.
Exactly. They don't want to leave it to someone that is irresponsible, that will take advantage, and they don't know if you're that person or not. So we have to be more open, more
Hmm.
understanding, right? Again, what we talk about is humanizing the legal industry. I have a whole episode about that. Lauren reminded
Very
me
good.
before the
Very
recording.
good. You should go back
And
and
so
watch it. Put it in the
you
show
should.
notes.
I will put it in the show notes. And it's being referenced left and right because even the people on LinkedIn, that it's probably one of our most popular episode at this point, and it only launched maybe a couple weeks ago. So
So
I'm pretty
apropos
excited
with
about
the AI. So it's perfect timing. Well done.
exactly. And so understanding that these are two humans that have their own isolated lives, and you're meshing it together in this work environment, however that looks like, whether it's through a virtual setting, whether it's through hybrid, whether it's an in-person setting. So you have to be more uh I guess trusting, right? Because we're talking about building
Hmm.
the trust.
Yeah,
You
build
have to
trust.
be more trusting, more open, but also, and when I say open, I don't just mean about your side. I don't just mean like, well, I have two kids, one of them is sick, this and that. Of course, you always want to have that open communication with your employer, but also on the employee side, because we're not trying to be one-sided in this conversation. You're both going through it. You have to understand that the employer also has to have that open communication, right? Hey, listen, I'm going through some stuff. You don't have to say what it is, but
Hmm.
there's some stuff happening and I'm going to need some time. So you guys are going to really have to self-manage and you're really going to have to put it together for this time until I can fix this, until I can do this. Hey guys, our profits are not that high and it's due to the inefficiencies and the bottlenecks, we're going to bring in a consultant, we're going to bring in a new CRM, and having that buy-in from the staff when you're doing these major changes, having that communication with your staff and really being open. By the way, our profits are not as high as we thought they would be. So we are trying to fix it,
Mm-hmm.
and this is how we're trying to fix it. Because what's happening is you're going to create that fear environment that you don't want. And then they're just going to leave. And then you're going to
And
be
the
really
murmuring
bad.
and the yes. Yep.
Yes, and the side talks and the chats on Teams and the things that you don't want,
The
right?
water
So really,
cooler and yeah.
oh, girl, please. We do that all the time. This is what this whole podcast is about. We talk when nobody wants to talk. This is why we've been so
Exactly.
successful for 4 years. Nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to talk
Yeah.
about the actual conversations that happen. I've been there. I was a full-time paralegal. I worked my way up. I started from billing clerk all the way up to supervisor, and I supervised a whole bunch of 20-year-olds going through
You know all the
college.
things. You know all the things. Do
Girl,
it
it was
all.
not easy. While I had just had my baby. So
Oh
I went on
goodness.
FMLA. Yeah, this is the story to tell, by the way. So I literally got off of FMLA, and my old supervisor says, "Congratulations, you got a promotion with no extra pay, by the way." So here I
Yay.
am supervising these 20-year-olds straight out of, like in their college, straight out of high school, going to college. Nothing against it, but they're trying to find themselves, right? They're not taking this job seriously because their next move is whatever it is that they're doing for college, and they're in their different mindset.
Success looks
And
different at this point.
exactly. So I'm trying to not only manage that, but it was a Florida law firm and I was working in the New York department. So I was learning
Oh.
everything new. This whole position, they tell me after 90 days they'll give me, the raise. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll stick around for 90 days. I was making decent money, so it wasn't horrible. But they know that I had just had a baby, right? Because
Hmm.
obviously I had to put in for my
And that's
FMLA.
just a minor life change.
Right, just a minor. Here I am trying to figure it out. It was my firstborn, so learning
Hmm.
everything and all the other stuff that happened in between. And so here I am trying to pivot, right, in my new success and trying to deal with these 20-year-olds because literally there was not one over 21. And learning everything, right? So
Hmm.
I luckily it was the same system, so I knew the systems, but it was different laws, different ways of managing the cases and things like that. So I had to learn all of that on
New
top
York is
of
not Florida.
no, definitely not. And so the bureaus and this and that, and it was great. It was a great experience. I got to learn a lot of things. And then after the 90 days, I go into my review, quote unquote, if you want to call it that. And she tells me she's going to give me a raise of 5 cents. Yep. Which means nothing because by the time taxes and benefits and everything leave my paycheck, I
And this
literally make
wasn't like
less.
1940, so
Yeah. So I looked at her and I thought she was kidding. So I started
uh-huh.
laughing. And she's like, "Why are you laughing?" And I was like, "Oh, I thought this was a joke." Like, I literally thought you were kidding with me. I'm like, "I've been with this company for, will be going on for 5 years. I have never gotten less than a perfect review."
Hmm.
And she's like, "Oh no, I saw that." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So you did see that. You saw that in my prior." "Oh yeah, a lot of people that transition from the Florida department to the New York department. This happens a lot." And I was like, um, "Would you mind telling me why I'm only getting 5 cents?" She had no real other than that I never go to every single meeting. That was her feedback. I was like, "Every single meeting? I'm never invited to every single meeting. So how do you
Hmm.
expect me to go to every single meeting?" So anyway, it was a whole conversation, and I left there as calm as I could, because obviously you give your blood, sweat, and tears to this
Hmm.
company. And, for me, it was personal, right? It was personal because I had been with the company for almost 5 years. They knew about my personal situation. I had lost my dad recently that year,
Hmm.
and I got pregnant in the interim. So, they knew all that because they gave me a bereavement. I was open. I was open on my end, but they were not open on their end. Right. And so
Yeah.
that right there was like, wow, why am I going to give them my all if they're not giving me theirs? And so that was a really
Hmm.
big one, and it was really hard for me to kind of navigate through that because it was just like a mental obstacle that I had to really go through, and I had to do that on my own, right? Because there was no one out there other than a therapist that was going to really help me navigate through that. And this is kind of how I want to end the episode because I know we're getting to the
Hmm.
30-minute mark. But I want to let you guys know that you have to be open, but you also have to find a place where they're going to be open with you as well. It has to be reciprocal. So
Yeah,
if
it
you
goes both
don't
ways.
feel, yeah, because what's happening is this is a working relationship. And just like any relationship in life, both of you have to give your 100%. Both of you have to give it your all. And if you're not able to give it your all, you need to be open and vocal about it. And if you're
Hmm.
looking for something else, if you're looking for that promotion, like Lauren mentioned, ask for it. Hey, the next time a promotion comes up for this position, I want to know about it. I want to
Yeah, or
apply.
what do
Don't
I
look
need to
outside.
do? I
What
want
do I
this.
need to
What
do?
do I
Where
need
do
to
I need
do?
to improve? Or how many
Hmm.
hours do I need to work? Any other skills that I need to work on? Would you provide that? And I have all these continuing legal education. It's a requirement. I have to pay for that. Is there some
Hmm.
compensation, or can you guys pay for some, for an event where I can get all of them, or pay half, or pay a third, or whatever it is? Really have that open communication of your needs, right? Because what happens is a lot of people leave thinking that the employer is just not willing to work with them.
Yeah, and
But
they never
it could
ask.
be the complete, yeah, they never asked. They never completely know because they never really had that conversation to begin with. And here the
Hmm.
employer is saying, how the hell did I lose my best producer? My
Yeah,
best employee. And so having those conversations, building the trust, like Lauren was mentioning,
and
you know,
trust is
co
everything.
I mean, once
It really is.
it's done, right? Like it is what it is. And so understanding that we need to start building upon that foundation is really, really important. So, Lauren, to wrap up this episode, do you have any resources or tips or tricks or maybe something you just want to add to the conversation, give that tangible idea for our audience to kind of reflect on and maybe take home with them?
Do you want to have a whole nother episode on tips?
Yeah, we can. We could totally do that. I feel like we could
Um,
talk forever, but
oh,
we
I know,
can't.
right? There'll be episode two,
Yes.
at some point. Yeah, so I would say, um,
You got to
it's really
pick.
hard.
You got to
I
pick.
know, I gotta boil this down here. It's a lot of pressure. I would say my absolute three takeaways. Three takeaways. We'll boil it down to that.
Okay.
Um, as a candidate, figure out what success means to you, without losing sight of all the success things that you've done in the past. The legal industry tends to attract type A people. Type A
Mm.
people thrive on striving for the next thing and they forget what they did, kind of like you said earlier. So appreciate those milestones. They never feel big because we accomplished them. Um, so figure out what success means to you. Don't chase shiny things. You may be having a bad day. It doesn't mean it's a bad job. You just are not happy today. So don't go and rage apply elsewhere. See if you can actually fix it. Figure
Oh
out
my
what
God, I love that. Rage apply. I'm writing that one down.
yeah. So figure out, what success means, and if you are going to make a move, what does that look like? Because jumping every 2 years is shooting yourself in the foot.
Mhm.
So try to fix where you are at the moment before, which seems so counterintuitive coming from a recruiter, but figure out what success means to you, and does that next job align with it? Um, Second thing is network. I cannot like stress it enough, especially when you're starting out. Network like crazy. Go to ask the partners, ask the senior associates, even if you're a paralegal. Um, Go to as many networking events as you possibly can go to, because it'll be those people that will help you find that next job. Um,
Yeah.
it's who you know that gets you in the door, it's what you know that keeps you there. So constantly be networking, meeting people. That'll be the most valuable tool that you have. And then the third thing is really like we've been hammering down is, build trust, have those conversations. What I always say is nobody likes bad news, everybody hates bad surprises. So don't be afraid to have those conversations. I think the healthiest relationships are the ones where you can have those difficult conversations. That's where the trust comes from. So don't be afraid if you're the employee, don't be afraid to be like, hey, I want to make this is where I want to go. Can you help me get there? What do I need to do to realize this success? And then as the employer, don't be telling people that they're doing great the whole year, and then at their 1 year review be like, yeah, I'm going to give you a 3 because you need to fix all these things, and blindside them, like have those conversations along the way, have those check-ins. So there is no bad surprises. Everybody's on the same page. It's it is emotional, but you also need to take the emotions out of it, and build that trust is really what it comes down to. So those 3 things: figure
I
out what
love it.
success is, network, and build trust.
I love it. I love it, Lauren. Thank you so much. I honestly feel like I could really talk to you all day. We have so much to talk about and so much content here. So definitely we'll have to bring you back at some point. But guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for always supporting our podcast and our platforms in general. I don't think I say that enough because without you, we wouldn't be able to do half of the things we do. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you, Lauren, for taking the time today and being on
Yeah,
our
absolutely.
podcast. And until justice is served, guys, I'll be here. I promise. I'm not going anywhere because everybody keeps asking me. So I'm not going anywhere. I'll
Please
be right
stay.
here. Yeah, I'll be right here. You, as always, you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. Those are our 2 main platforms, but you can always just hop on the podcast and just listen to my voice if you need a soothing voice. All right, guys, bye.